Hi, my name is Ruoyun, and this is my robot called Dot Print. I really like drawing myself, so I wanted to make a robot that could draw, but my robot actually draws in dots rather than a continuous line. And so my plan for the robot was, oh wait, oh okay, my plan for the robot was to make it into dots, like pointillism. And what happens is that it draws line by line, and in each line, as long as there's a dot, it will go down and make a dot. So my robot itself was an original design. I didn't use any designs off the internet because I found them to be too big, like this one, and I wanted to make mine a little bit smaller. So I built it completely from scratch, which was a little bit of a challenge, but it was pretty interesting. And some other designs that I looked for inspiration in was this design, which uses a pen that moves back and forth, and that was what I wanted to do with my robot, so that it could be very precise inside drawing the dots. So my first version is very different from the actual final product. And like I said before, I made this completely from scratch, so I went through many different revisions to actually come up with the final product. And out of all of the lab days, I used 5 out of 6 completely dedicated to building, and I did some coding out of class so that I could be able to draw the dots perfectly and precisely. A lot of times I had to also test the values, and that was what led to the precision that I needed for the drawing of the dots. As if the dots aren't precise, then you can't really tell what the drawing is. I also had to make the whole design somewhat stable, and it's still a little bit unstable. But I had some solutions with the help of people like Gary and the TAs. So one of them was to use worm gear, which is this kind of spiral-looking thing that translates rotational movement into vertical movement. And this was really useful for me because I wanted my robot to move precisely and have it be able to calculate each angle. And what it does is while it's moving, it moves the worm gear, but a lot slowly, so I can make the dots very precise. Another thing that I had problems with was the pressure on the pen, because at first I let the pen hang a little bit too above the paper, so when it came down to make a dot, oftentimes the dots wouldn't exactly have color. So I changed it around to make the pen closer to the ground. I also had to feed the paper through like an actual printer would. And I did this because I wanted the actual robot itself to only move in horizontal directions to make it even more precise. So for the code itself, I wrote inside Java and Robot C, and that combined was made into 3 programs. The Robot C program was just one program that ran the dots, and I had 2 programs written in Java, which is a language that I'm more familiar with. And what it does is that it reads an image and gets the red, green, and blue pixels. And from there, it translates that into black and white colors so that I can output it to a file as 0s and 1s. And this is an example of the output. I'm not sure if you can see it, but you might be able to see a faint outline of a sun created by the 1s. And this was just a program that I ran through my Java program, and it just calculated it. And for my robot code, I used a get motor encoder, which is similar to the sync motor encoders, except that it's only for one motor. And what it does is it calculates the precise value in degrees of the robot's movement. And combined all together, I have my final result, which is this dot print printer. And while it's not very precise, as you'll see later, it's actually much better than some of the designs I had before. And here's somewhat of what I made. So that was the sun program that you saw running, and this is what the actual output looks like. And in a lot of places, you can see that it's a little bit bunched up, and that was due to the fact that the paper didn't run through as I thought it would. I had some limitations while I was programming this, and one of them was the size of the array, because in each program, you have limited amounts of space, so I couldn't draw a large image, and the memory space was limited to 15 kilobytes. Also, I had problems with the precision of the dots. I hope you can tell that this is supposed to be a smiley face, but there's a couple of dots that are actually off a little, and that's due to the fact that sometimes the gear moves off a little, which causes the dots to be off. So in the future, if I had more time, I'd like to improve on my design. by maybe including a paper tray like a regular printer or making it more precise. And I also want to improve the speed as it's going at a pretty slow rate. Thank you for listening to my presentation.